brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla Minus Zero news and updates. And this one, Godzilla Minus Zero, is actually going to be premiering next month. It is coming right on up, and it has led to a lot of discussion and confusion in the fan base as to A, why this is happening, and B, is this the death of this movie? Is there just going to be so many spoilers following this that it will ruin the experience? I am excited to get into all of that with you guys, share my thoughts on it, and explain what's going down, but first, let's show off some artwork like always. This first piece comes to us from Wars Godzilla, and it is their evolution of Yamazaki's Godzilla sketch. So cool, starting out down here with Always Sunset on 3rd Street, 2's Godzilla, which looks great. Godzilla the Ride, who I really like the way they drew him here. Godzilla Minus One, very iconic. And then Godzilla Minus Zero back here, peeking his head over, so epic. I love Yamazaki's Godzillas. I really love the evolution. Glow-ups, pretty much all around the board. Very cool stuff. Here's GNA's Godzilla Minus Zero Roar. It's so cool. I loved the pose of Godzilla in this one. He looks so powerful. I love the tail back there. That's a great touch. And I really like the smaller details of like the purpley pink almost highlights. That looks very beautiful. This is a great piece right here. Kenizo CG VFX is working on an upcoming Godzilla Minus One fan film, and this is a VFX render from it. It looks so great. Near movie quality here with Godzilla bursting out of the water and roaring on this shoreline. This is so cool. These are just some behind-the-scenes teaser images of it, but they do have a rendered version of this that I'll show off in another video. This is so dope. Godzilla's spines look really messed up here. They look really aggressive and kind of giving the vibe of like Godzilla Minus Zero, where it's like they almost they look more painful than they do in the movie. This is very cool. I don't know how they did this shot. It kind of, to me, looks like they probably took this as a practical shot and then inserted Godzilla into it. I don't know how they've done the water effects, but this is very, very impressive work right here. I would love to learn how to do this. Rio made this Godzilla Minus Zero diorama for NippoCom. I'm not sure what NippoCom is, but I really, really am impressed by the diorama. You've got the water base down here, which is super cool. You've got the Kawashin, that's what that is, the Kawashin H8K, I believe, down here being chased by Godzilla, who's bursting out of the water just like the ending of the Godzilla Minus Zero teasers. I love the water exploding around Godzilla here, the way it's flowing down him. It is so cool. Such an impressive piece here. Oh my god, look how Godzilla looks so intimidating here with the wide out eyes. He is so awesome. Chasing the plane. Very, very cool. So intimidating and powerful. Great job. Thank you to Mr. Goji for putting together this comparison here of Takashi Miyazaki's Godzilla Minus One sketches and concept art versus the final renders, showcasing how very accurately Yamazaki brought his design to life. I really love this pose for Godzilla. It's very wispy, and it's a great render as well. This is the iconic one. Yamazaki knew exactly what he wanted here. Look at the way he already knew the tail position precisely how he wanted it. He knew the angle he wanted. It's very, very cool. And then this one's also very cool. This one's a little different, I guess, because the tail position's a little different, but this is sick. Godzilla swinging around. Very powerful pose here. I just thought it was so cool to see the sketch to render comparisons here, so thank you for putting this together. Teaser is playing in front of select theaters. I believe this is being played at a Regal theater, and this was spotted by Dylan Johnson. Very awesome. I have not gotten it at any of the theaters I've gone to, at any of the showings I've gone to for recent movies, but I would love to see this playing in theaters. What makes me so happy is that G-Kids is actually getting this in front of theaters, and the fact that it plays in front of, I believe Dylan said, Spider-Man, is very, very important because A, that movie's doing incredibly well, so this trailer's getting seen by a lot of people, and B, it's not just playing in front of niche Japanese films that are being distributed internationally. G-Kids has stepped up their game from Godzilla Minus One, which was distributed by Toho International, and that film did not have much promotion in the United States. There were no teasers playing in front of theaters, at least that I ever came across, and when they were, when I saw it online, it was for like niche Japanese imports. It was not for something like Spider-Man, where it's a very mainstream. So that's very, very impressive and very cool that they got that out there. I really hope it does a lot to get exposure for this movie so that when it comes out, it does incredibly well.
on medium voltage VFDs, intelligent motor control, and the $50,000 mistake on $1 million project. We're at the old Battersea.
NHK aired a new Godzilla Minus Zero featurette as part of their Movies of 2026 feature that they did, and in it there was a small featurette on Godzilla Minus Zero, specifically a behind the scenes on the score, a first look into the score of Godzilla Minus Zero. More details on that in upcoming episodes. New Godzilla Minus Zero banners have started to appear across Japan. First, the poster is popping up all over the place, and secondly, a new banner was revealed. This new banner combines the G and the 00 with the Godzilla poster and the character title cards. This is a great looking banner in my opinion. I would love to have one of these things draped in my backdrop. This is so cool. I believe this is the "There will be no third chance" tagline. Here's a much closer look at that banner. It is very cool. And I do really like the way it combines the G and the white, clean aesthetic of the Minus Zero poster and Minus One posters with the new key art of Godzilla roaring. And then the character cards down here is very cool, very classically Japanese. I really like that. And with that, we have the kind of bombshell announcement. This came out of nowhere. I don't think anybody was expecting this. I wonder how long they've had this planned. I was very surprised to see this. The New York Film Festival, the 64th New York Film Festival, will be featuring Godzilla Minus Zero at the 2026 Spotlight Gala for the world premiere of the film. Godzilla Minus Zero is going to premiere next month, September 26th. It's not uncommon for global premieres for films to happen ahead of the scheduled release date. That happens all of the time, but I was very surprised to see A, where this world premiere is taking place, and B, how early it is, as this is not common for Toho's Godzilla films. This is a real first for that, and there's a lot of reasons why that might have happened. The 64th New York Film Festival announced the world premiere of Godzilla Minus Zero at the Spotlight Gala on September 26th. That is 38 days ahead of the film's open, wide release on November 3rd in Japan. Takashi Yamazaki, some of the cast and crew will be in attendance. Why would they do this? Well, there's a
I'm
lot of
Italian.
reasons. First of all, it's
Sicilian,
largely
actually.
the success of Godzilla Minus One. Godzilla Minus One was a huge success. It is, I believe, the highest-grossing Japanese live-action film in the international box office ever. It broke records here in America. It also was so highly awarded in Japan and went on to win an Oscar, the first Academy Award for the Godzilla franchise. That was a huge deal. Godzilla Minus One is obviously an immensely important film for Godzilla and for Toho, and Godzilla Minus Zero is meant to directly build off of the success of that film. It is bringing back Takashi Yamazaki and the crew, continuing the story, and clearly the film is being made for a more international scale. The first ever footage for Godzilla Minus Zero was revealed at CinemaCon in the United States. That's where we got the first teaser, which also ends with Godzilla in front of the Statue of Liberty, teasing Godzilla's arrival in America, specifically New York, making it even more fitting that they would premiere the film in New York. He'll be in the city Godzilla attacks during his attack. That's so awesome. It makes a lot of sense for them to go that route with it. The film also features English-speaking actors, and the first trailer has all English dialogue. So clearly, the film is made for a more internationally conscious audience. From a business perspective, this makes sense for Toho to do that because they have been trying to expand Godzilla into international markets, especially as the Japanese population continues to age, as a way to get new people invested in Godzilla. It also makes a lot of sense to do this because the New York Film Festival is for prestigious films. This is Toho leading with their chest, saying this is an artistic movie. This isn't just some mindless blockbuster. This is continuing what Godzilla Minus One started. It is going to be a cinematic event. It is going to be an art house film the same way Godzilla Minus One was, and it is something they are internationally proud of. They're putting it out early to say we're confident in it. Not only are we confident in it, we're confident that it can compete on a global playing field, and that it is equal in quality to all of the rest of the films coming out this year. That is why it's premiering here. It is of the highest honor that it gets to premiere here. I did see a little backlash from the Japanese community wanting it to premiere in Japan first, and while that is standard for Japanese Godzilla films, this is a special occasion.
Oh, I'm excited for Godzilla, trust me.
The Japanese premiere to happen somewhere at the end of October or like November 1st in Japan, probably in Shinjuku at the Toho cinemas, just like all the other Godzilla premieres have been with the red carpets. I could totally see them doing that as well. This is a big deal that they're playing it early. Now, if you're worried about spoilers, well, this isn't playing necessarily for anybody. Yes, it is true that any one of us can buy a ticket right now, but let's check those ticket prices out because they're not what you think. Tickets will be opening early. I'll let you read through this while I give you the details. Tickets will be opening early on August 28th for FEC members. That's right around the corner here, so tickets will be sold here at the end of the month. For Bronze and Gold Pass members first. The Bronze and Gold Passes here are going to increase in price come August 13th. Until then, it's $7,000 for a Bronze Pass and $16,500 for a Gold Pass. I just don't personally see it being all that accessible to the general public. There's also these passes, which are also going to increase here for $350, $625. And now these do get you multiple tickets for multiple different movies, so you can go across many of the movies premiering at the film festival, but like it is a prestigious event for industry insiders, for press, and for people who have a lot of money. So I'm not personally overly concerned that some randos are going to go see this and spoil it, and if you're going to spend the money to see it early, I would hope that you have some respect for the fan base and for everyone else on Earth, and you're not going to spoil it for clout, though, I mean, it is in line with the behavior of many Godzilla fans in the past to want to do stuff like that. I would absolutely love to go. Obviously, I don't have the money for that.
Mr. Jetson, amen. Last time I checked.
Tickets will go on sale for the general public, but those tickets will, once again, be a little expensive, and also, it's highly unlikely the movie will not be sold out by that point. While I understand the fear about spoiler culture, I appreciate it, because it shows that this movie is being taken seriously. It's a little depressing that Godzilla Kong Supernova is not treated with the same respect, as this fan base has shown absolutely no regard for keeping spoilers close to the vest. They have been spoiling it for clout since the first opportunity they've had with the early test screenings, and people continue to do so. I really appreciate seeing that Godzilla Minus Zero is being taken a little more seriously, and I appreciated that there was such an intense spoiler culture for Godzilla Minus One. I appreciate that people are protective of this, and I hope that protective attitude maintains, and I really do hope there's no spoilers coming out of this. My biggest fear is that we will hear early details and that people who don't know to not spoil things will accidentally do so. That's obviously been a big problem for Spider-Man Brand New Day, with Six character basically being public knowledge and spoiled to high heavens because a lot of people didn't know to keep it secret. And I worry that stuff like that would happen with Godzilla Minus Zero. So it might be a little bit of a tricky landscape moving forward from September to November to navigate the spoiler culture, but I do have faith that people going to this film festival will have some respect for themselves and not spoil it, but maybe I'm being optimistic here.
Entyvio today? Talk to your healthcare provider and visit Entyvio.com. With Entyvio, you may be able to pay as little as $0 per dose. Plus, our team can help connect you with additional support programs. Entyvio!
This looks great.
This one's brand new, ready to move in.
Press release for this, we did get some new details, which is kind of cool. Here it states, after Godzilla Minus One's triumphant reimagination of the timeless Godzilla franchise in 2023, the genius Oscar-winning visual effects and emotionally gripping back-to-basics storytelling approach, director Takashi Yamazaki returns with a supremely satisfying sequel. Godzilla Minus Zero picks up in 1949, 2 years after the tumultuous events of Godzilla Minus One, and continues the story of the Shikishima family as they face an all-new calamity, an experience that demands the big screen. Featuring even more astounding effects choreography than its predecessor, Godzilla Minus Zero cranks up the terror while always keeping it in post-World War II Japan narrative at human eye level. I like to hear that grounded. I also really think it's cool that they are cranking up the terror. That's awesome. I really want them to lean into the horror element and the fear factor that you can create with Godzilla. That's so cool. While keeping it grounded at the human eye level. Yes, please. I've pitched for a while my idea on if Godzilla is going to fight an opponent in this movie, how do you keep that grounded? Well, you center the narrative around getting us, the audience, to not want the monsters to fight out of fear of the calamity that'll cause our characters. Keeping it ground level sounds to me like they're going that direction, which is great. They continue with a quote from Takashi Miyazaki saying, "It is truly an honor to introduce our film to a global audience for the first time in a place of such history and prestige. I'm filled with both awe and excitement to see how far the power of Japan's Godzilla can terrify audiences around the world and whether they will resonate with what lies beyond that fear." I love that Yamazaki is once again centering on the fear and despair that Godzilla causes. That is what Godzilla really embodies and, in my opinion, is at his best when he is those things. I love that. We have another quote here that says, "More than 70 years after the first Godzilla movie, Takashi Miyazaki continues to prove that there's a life in the old franchise yet, returning it to its post-war roots to locate a haunting primal terror. Like its predecessor, Godzilla Minus Zero is a throwback blockbuster, a showcase for human drama and innovative craft, and we are all excited to have its world premiere at this year's NYFF Spotlight Gala." That is from Dennis Lim, the NYFF artistic director. There you go, Godzilla Minus Zero will once again be centered on the horror, returning to the post-war roots and staying there, and it will be a throwback blockbuster. In this regard, that means that it's not like campy or hokey. It means that it's keeping the emphasis on the human drama, the characters, and on craftsmanship. I love that. That is all I wanted
From the United States.
It's shaping up to be perfect. Here's the announcement from Toho that it would be playing at this, and here is our details on Godzilla Minus Zero's runtime, which has officially been confirmed at 135 minutes. That's right, Godzilla Minus Zero is officially 2 hours and 15 minutes long. Part of me is a little surprised that this isn't going to be like one of those ones that they're tinkering on until the very last second when it releases on November 3rd, which is very, very common here in America for American blockbusters to go that route. I'm glad that they're like, yeah, the movie's done, we're ready to premiere it, and like they put the work into it. That's great. And I really have faith that that doesn't mean they're rushing it either. I think they just did nail it. 2 hours and 15 minutes, though, does make this the longest Japanese Godzilla film in history, beating out Godzilla Final Wars, which previously held the record. This is the second longest film in the Godzilla franchise behind Godzilla 1998, which came in at 138 minutes, just a few minutes longer. That movie was 2 hours and 18 minutes. Godzilla Minus One was 125 minutes, which was 2 hours and 5 minutes, so this film is 10 minutes longer than Godzilla Minus One. Obviously, there's going to be a lot to cover in this movie. We're picking up with our characters, re-establishing their lives. Lodigo's got whatever's going on with her neck. There's Godzilla's return. There's whatever's going on with the G-cells. There's a new planet, a new Godzilla. There's however Godzilla factors into America and the Statue of Liberty. Whatever the Americans are up to in this film with their devious plan to potentially nuke the Japanese, and maybe even an enemy monster. So there's so much going on with this film that I'm very happy to hear that it's the longest Japanese Godzilla film. I was actually a little worried that it would come in a little under or around 2 hours, because I really think that this movie should have as much time possible to breathe, and I'm so happy to hear that sounds like the case. Give this movie as much time as they need to tell the story, especially given that this is also seemingly going to be the end of the Godzilla Minus saga. It's wrapping up here. So it makes me very happy to hear that they are putting in the time to allow this movie what it needs to tell the story it needs to tell. I have nothing but confidence and faith in Godzilla Minus Zero. I cannot wait for it, and I cannot wait to keep breaking it down with you guys over the next few months. That's where I'm going to leave you for today. I want to give a big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. It is through the support of the patrons on Patreon that I'm able to continue to make videos like this for you. If you want to support the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below. If that's everything, please consider joining us as a channel member. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you all next time for the next one. G-Man out.
Shit.
In the forest for
phone's so hot. That's where they get your password. Someone's trying to get into your accounts. I scanned mine with Guardio and found 14 breaches.
We got this from Reddit. President misreads transistor as transgender and decides to just go with it. Goes off on tangent. Actually, the real story is Donald Trump was pointing out that when they passed the CHIPS Act, they were offering grants to companies so long as they had a certain number of trans individuals at the highest level of the company. That's what he is complaining about. But this is how propaganda works. This post was at the top of Reddit, and all of the comments are from default libs who don't know anything. And so I look at this stuff and I'm like, how do you swim against a riptide? When you've got evil people that can snap their fingers and put up fake content like this, and those people who are not interested in politics are never going to watch the show for the fact check. Let me play the clip for you so you can hear for yourself.
Bring back the car plants, the AI plants, are all coming back. If they don't, they have to pay taxes. The chips, we had this ridiculous CHIPS Act where you get billions of dollars to a company and they didn't even know what the hell to do with it. You give them billions of dollars, they say they're going to build, nobody knew what to do with it. And of course the standards were so high. If you weren't transgender, as an example, you didn't qualify. So they get the money, they hire, they look all over for transgender people to run the company, large portions. They couldn't find them. They weren't into the chip-making business, I guess, right? They had other things on their mind. But this was the Biden fools, these idiots that almost destroyed our country.
So all of us who knows what DEI is and why it was bad, we hear what Trump says and we agree. It's insane that you had to find a trans person to run a company to get a grant. On Reddit, I want to make sure I break this down as best I can. No one accidentally takes this clip, frames it as though Trump meant transistor, and then posts it to Reddit. It's just not an accident. No, this is not a mistake. This was intentionally clipped and posted to, it's similar to what we call information vaccination. Now there's going to be a bunch of libs who don't understand what they're hearing and don't know what DEI is, and they're going to go around being like, Trump was talking about transistors and said transgender because he couldn't read, and then he just goes off like some maniac. And then you won't be able to explain to them why they're wrong because their mind does not remember this. They don't have photographic memories. They just remember this brief blip of a headline. Now let's just break down really quick. Trump said, transistor people? That's not a phrase. He didn't accidentally say transistor people. But this is the nature of propaganda. And, what I will say is you've got people like, David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen and Destiny. They know all of this, but they're evil. So they will maintain those lies.
Don't let me.
And that's just the politically active side of it. X is worse now because of the monetization on the platform, where people just put fake quotes on videos that they know people won't watch. Even if it's not accurate or even close to what was said in the video, nobody's going to check. They just want to
Watching this, and they don't care if he, mispronounced a word.
No guy knows.
He's the only one making
Yeah,
it
sure.
look bad. And more than anything, Trump has been a subject
I know a guy knows a guy knows a
propaganda
guy.
and the misuse of it by the left. I mean, do you guys remember that CNN video that was clipped during January 6th to make it look like he encouraged people to go out and attack? Like, that was diabolical, and nobody cared that it was a false video. They wanted it to be true, and they did not care that it wasn't.
Yeah, a side-by-side video of, they showed, I think it was Bernie Sanders, Obama going to see, what was that thing called? The Washington, what was the big rock with all the faces of the presidents on it? Mount Rushmore. I don't know why that escaped. They said, Trump went to this racist place and to do this thing, and then Bernie Sanders like, he goes to this other thing. And so, anyway.
A lot of things. Look, the narrative that's spun by the left is essentially always Trump bad. And however they can adjust the video, they're going to do it. It's really hard to convince people that the media does this, because this is a quote from Michael Malice. He says, when you try to convince a normal person that isn't really plugged into politics that the media lies, the reaction you get is as if you told them that the weather, the meteorologist, the weatherman, he's lying. Not he's getting it wrong, he's lying. And they feel like, why would they do that? Why would the weatherman lie to me? They look at you like you've got some, a dick growing out of your forehead or something. Like, they're just like, what? What do you mean they're lying?
Explain that. Like, so what's the response to somebody who says that to you then? So say you're talking to somebody, they're not politically initiated, they don't really understand that there's a reason for it. You could give them a bunch of information about, like, look, these are the political leanings of the editors and all of these newsrooms and all of this stuff and how much money can be made to realize in politics. But what's the basic answer you give to somebody who asks that question?
So the best thing to do is what Tim did when, I forget the gentleman's name that was here last week, to show them a video, right? Show them the actual video.
Jason Ellis.
Yeah, Jason Ellis, thank you. Show them the full cut of whatever edited thing is, any argument that you're making, show them video proof. That is still functional. Less functional because of AI videos of people that are, people are going to be like, that's not real, or you're showing me something. That was Jason's first response. We showed him a video of an articulating tractor with cars on the front lifting the razor wire and fence so people could wade across
Philly.
the
I'm not New York, I'm a Philly.
I'm
a Philly one.
Right? These were illegals coming in, and there wasn't just a handful of them. There was a couple hundred probably that were coming in at that particular one. And Tim related how that was by order of the Biden administration. They were doing that because the Biden administration said. And he goes, "You're lying." And we had to show him, like, not just show him that, we had to show him context. And he's like, and he was basically like, I can't believe it. So to answer your question, I'm not 100% sure the best way to do it, because it's always changing. The more evidence you can present, the better. But again, it's still people that are going to look at you and be like, what do you mean the meteorologist is lying about?
If it doesn't validate whatever they believe in, they would just choose to ignore it.
It's worth pointing out, I totally agree with you, but it's worth pointing out the people in this particular context, in this scenario, don't have a strong political leaning. You're never going to get, look, if someone put on a pussy hat and was at the rally for women or whatever, it doesn't matter what you show them. They're just going to say, you're lying because you're on the right. The tribalism in this country is very strong. But the very few people that you could sway one way or another, people that don't pay much of attention but are actually interested, you have to have a good amount of evidence to prove to them, because it does sound ridiculous, like the news is lying to you,
Let me show you. This is from the same subreddit. It was also going viral on the front page. Tallarico says what they're doing in Texas is a redrawing the line.
I asked my husband, when did you get so big? His confidence hits different with Rougiette Ready. It dissolves under his tongue, works in 15 minutes on average, and can last for up to 36 hours. Rougiette Ready is the first ED formula with apomorphine, which helps fire up arousal signals in the brain, combined with sildenafil and tadalafil to amplify arousal and performance, not just blood flow. Honestly, he gets harder erections, he gets bigger erections, and yes, we have better sex. It's also up to 3 times stronger than generic ED meds, and 81% of men say they prefer it over other ED treatments. Now, I get why. He gets prescribed 100% online. It ships discreetly to our door, and it starts at just under $8 per dose. Fast-acting, long-lasting, built for confidence. Check out Rougiette Ready today.
This settlement check completely changed my life, and it came from a car accident I almost forgot about. I'm honestly shaking as I record this. I never imagined something this big could come from an accident that felt so small at the time. If you've been in any kind of vehicle accident in the past 2 years, even if you think it was minor, even if you were just a passenger, you might be entitled to far more than you realize. Here's my story. I was stopped.
Today I'm going to get into something that I think is interesting, and I've been asked this question so many times, and it's about the last Colombo War, which was really the last mob war of the 20th century.
I see your comments, but it's hard for me to keep track of my count and talk at the same time.
Throughout 2000 or until 2000. So it was the last big war of all of the families in the 20th century. So before we get into that, let me kind of set the table for what was going on back then. It was 1986.
I'm not a multitasker.
Giuliani had indicted everybody from the mob commission. You know what the bosses? My boss, Carmine Persico at the time, was certainly one of them. A lot of Colombo guys involved in that. They were convicted. They all received a 100-year sentence. At that time, just prior to that, I had taken a plea myself for racketeering. Got a 10-year prison sentence. You all know that. $15 million restitution, go off to do my time. During that time, I had no bail, and I was in the MDC, the jail in Manhattan at the time. Everybody was in there. We're all there waiting to get designated.
That's all right.
Wherever it is,
No worries.
sent to prison. And I was there with Junior and Glenn, Jella, and everybody. We were all there. And during that time, Carmine asked me, Junior came over to me, we were speaking one time, and he asked me, so what do you think about little Vic? Vic hadn't been indicted at that point. And I knew Vic basically all my life. He was around my father for a while. So I said, you know, look, I gave him my opinion of Vic. He asked me a couple of things about him, and I'm not going to get into all of it, but he asked me about him, and I know he had something in mind. Anyway, we all go off to prison, and Ali Boy Persico, who was my Gumbada, he baptized my oldest son, John. He was after his junior. As the boss of the family, he was a captain at the time. And then he got in trouble, and little Vic was very close with him, who was part of Ali Boy's crew at that time. He got in trouble, and he designated little Vic Arena to take over the family. And he was the boss. And he had full authority at that time. He could have, he could have put guys into the family, could have inducted people, he could have, ordered a murder. I mean, he was the full-fledged acting boss at that time. And things were going pretty good from what I understand for a couple of years. It's funny because Junior, I forget where he was. I think he originally went to Lompoc prison out in California. At that time, I went to Terminal Island. And, we were all doing our time. Vic was out on the street, and he was kind of managing things. And from what I understand, he was okay. Carmine Sessa was very loyal to Persico. He was a consigliere at that time. And after a couple of years, for some reason, I think Vic got tired of, taking orders from Junior because people were going up to see Persico, his brother Teddy, a few other people were seeing him, and Junior was, giving orders from prison because he was the real boss. And after a while, it seemed that he was getting tired of that. And there was some word that Junior was going to try to do a television show to try to prove his innocence. They said he was getting, a little antsy in there. He was doing things that weren't right. I don't know. This is only what I was told from, some of the guys that I seen at that time. And anyway, Vic decides to make a move. He wants to become boss. All right, everyone, quick thing before we continue. You know what everyone tells me at events? They come up and they say, Michael, I bought your wine just to support you. And then they say, but I kept buying it because it's so darn good. And that's the best compliment I ever get. Enjoy it. Here it is. Let's get it. And so he gets Carmine Sessa to start polling all of the soldiers to see what they thought of if Vic was to take over from Junior. And Carmine Sessa, who was very close to Persico, I think he went to his brother Teddy, and he told him what was going on. Teddy goes and tells Junior. Junior right away, he was a tough guy. He wasn't going to stand for any of this, and he kind of ruled with an iron hand. He said, that's it. Kill me. And there was a murder attempt on Vic's life, I think in 1990 or 1991. They shot at him. They missed him. That's it. The war was going to begin. But before the war began, the two sides had gotten together, the Persico faction and the Arena faction, and the way I understood it at the time, because I was getting word in prison about all of this, the way I understood it at the time, there was about
Sorry, I missed your question.
90 guys that sided with Arena. Guys that I was surprised were siding with Arena, and maybe 25, 30 of Junior's guys that were siding with him. Junior was smart in some respects. He made a lot of his relatives, his sons, his cousins, his brothers, people close to him. And, you can't beat family when it comes to that. So there was about 25, 30 of Persico's guys that were very tight with him. So the two sides get together and they try to negotiate. Of course, the big
all swaps we look alike,
who was going to be the boss. Neither side gave in. Arena wasn't given in. And boom, the families officially go to war in 1991. Now, why is that meaningful to me? I'm in jail at that time. And people people, I'm going to tell you something I haven't really spoken about before. This whole thing with Norby Walters came up. I was in Lombard Federal Prison. I had been violated on my parole, sent back to prison in 91. I was out until then, right? This occurred before I went into prison in 91. Okay, now yes, I had testified against Norby Walters, but listen, I was subpoenaed to testify in that case. And when I was subpoenaed to testify, I sent word back and let them know I didn't care about Norby Walters. They tried to kill Norby Walters 3 times. They wanted me to kill him, I wouldn't do it. So nobody cared about Norby Walters. I knew what I was doing. Norby never went to prison for a day in his life. I'm not going to get into all of the specifics about it. But anyway, they knew what I did. I had, believe or said that I was walking away from that life. It wasn't formal yet at that point. So this thing started to brew while I was out on the street. And I didn't know where I was going to go because I knew the two sides were going to try to get together and work it out. Boom, November, I get violated and put back in prison. And the war starts. They couldn't come together. Junior happened to be in Lompoc. He was in the penitentiary. I was in the medium security. I get word from him, what side you want. And I'll tell you how I got word. It was a correctional officer that came to me. Junior had sent word back, and I said, look, you don't understand, because I had 2.5 years, and I was in the hole 2.5 years before I was going to get out. It was 3 years, and I
non si vede così.
wanted to know where I stood. And I said, look, I don't jump ship. I'm loyal in that regard, even though I was still planning to walk away from the life. It's not something that I was going to stay in, but the family was at war. And people, I want to tell you this. Before I went in, my father had sent word to me, and with all of this talk about me walking away from my life, he had said to me, Mike, stop the baloney. Family's going to war. We need you. And my father was loyal to the Persico faction. He wasn't jumping ship either in that regard. And I got to tell you this, I was really torn. I said, man, I'm on parole. How could I do this? My family's going to war. I felt like I was betraying by not going back, and I was really, really torn as to what I was going to do. Honestly, I was so torn by it. I had made a decision that, I need to I was going to break my parole. I don't know how I was going to tell my wife. I was probably going to make up a story to go back there, but